Good morning and early afternoon, everyone. Welcome to New York Metro Weather's severe weather briefing on Hurricane Irene this Saturday, August 27th, 2011. Hurricane Irene made landfall early this morning in eastern North Carolina as a Category 1 hurricane with a maximum sustained winds of 85 miles an hour, currently moving north-northeast at 15 miles an hour, and forecast to continue to do so over the next 24 hours as the system makes its final approach towards the area. As you can see, still hurricane warnings up and down the east coast now all the way to Cape Cod and still extending that back towards the Carolina coastline as the hurricane is still impacting that area greatly. As we take a look at the east coast visible satellite, and you can see this is a tremendous system with outflow bands extending all the way now into central Vermont. The inflow you could see very strong coming from Florida and the southwestern Atlantic Ocean. A very, very large hurricane, although not strong and organized as it was when it was back in the Bahamas. The system is still very organized for being inland now at this time. As we zoom in on our satellite over the northeast, you can see those outer outflow bands we were talking about and the deeper clouds now back here towards the mid-Atlantic as tropical storm conditions are being felt as up the Delaware and Maryland beaches as far north as Ocean City, Maryland, and probably even farther north than that now. We take a look at the radar, and you can see the system really has become rather organized over the past few hours after it made landfall. We saw some cooler cloud tops on the water vapor imagery as well. But the main story now is the heavy rain that's coming inland over the Carolinas and into the mid-Atlantic. This is going to be a very big story over the next 24 hours, the rainfall. You can see convection developing now over New Jersey and even up into Connecticut and southern New England. But the main story is going to be this first band that you can now see starting to become defined south of Long Island. All of the models have this band moving northwest and interacting with the frontal boundary and the upper level dynamics over our area over the next few hours into the evening on almost all the forecast models. And as mentioned, it has a lot to do with the upper level dynamics and the increasing instability that we actually are, a lot of times in hurricanes the instability is fairly low, but being on the outskirts by this afternoon we are forecast to have at least some instability, which could add to the development of some convection in our area. So as I mentioned, this area, this band, and then this one now coming off the Atlantic Ocean, all areas to watch with the afternoon as all the models develop an area of very, very heavy rain over our area. One more little zoom in that we can go into here, and you can see what we're talking about. The Carolinas, the tropical storm force conditions now into Maryland, Delaware beaches. This is a significant situation as the hurricane is still located just inland in northeastern North Carolina, west of Cape Hatteras. So this storm is the movement has slowed down. It's been modeled to slow down as it came inland, and now is actually modeled to eject to the northeast back over open water. So you can imagine how intense the rain could be, and it's not over a terribly short period of time. It's basically going to be like a very very intense rain, tropical rain, but it's not moving overly quickly. So this is where you build up these insane rain amounts. Speaking of convection and thunderstorms, the Storm Prediction Center has issued a tornado watch now that extends into southern New Jersey, just south of the Philadelphia metropolitan area, with the threat of tornadoes coming in off the water in small supercells, rotating supercells that can develop within the hurricane. Here's the initial radar, and then you can see how the storm has maneuvered itself over the last, I believe it's been an hour or two since they issued this tornado watch. So we spoke about the potential for severe weather, and we spoke about the potential for heavy rain, but we want to get into the heavy rain a little bit more, and here's the excessive rainfall potential outlook. And you can see there's a high risk basically from the Carolinas now up through the Delaware and Maryland beaches through far southeast PA, Philadelphia, New Jersey, and into the New York City area with the potential, the maximum potential rainfall exceeding 5 inches in the hatched area. So they are expecting very, very heavy rain. As we mentioned, we've been talking about this for days. To help illustrate the point of how the flooding could become so serious over certain areas, here's a 3-hour flash flood guidance over the area. Basically, this is the amount of rainfall that's needed in the area rivers in certain areas of the county that would cause the rivers to reach flood stage. And you can see, look at these amounts here over northeast New Jersey. Only 1.5 inches of rain is needed in some places to cause flash flooding. On Long Island, only 2 inches of rain is needed. It's a little bit better over southern New Jersey, 3 inches, 3.5 inches. But the models are predicting 8 to 10 inches of rain throughout the entire area. So this could become a very, very serious situation. We just wanted to use this to illustrate how really dire a situation this is, especially over areas that flood very easily. And this becomes a whole other beast over areas like Long Island and the Jersey Shore, with the potential for storm surge, because that only adds to the problem when you have areas near or below sea level that can flood easily. Flash flooding with the storm surge coming in, it could just be these are points we've been trying to make for a few days about how this is not going to be your typical hurricane where you see on television, where you have 150-mile-an-hour winds blowing houses over. But the insane amounts of rain, the storm surge coming in at a very bad astronomical high tide time, and then the tropical storm to hurricane force winds knocking over trees at certain times in certain places. It could be a very bad situation. We take a look at the latest models. We spoke about that rain band, and you can see the models still have it developing over central New Jersey up into Long Island and New York City. This is a NAM model from earlier this afternoon or late this morning. And you can see that over the next several hours this band is forecast to develop. This is by 0Z Sunday, or 8 o'clock Saturday night. And then the storm begins to make its trek up the coast, and you can see how the models eject the storm actually to east of Ocean City, Maryland, and then bring the storm back northwest towards Long Beach Island, landfalling on Long Beach Island. And this is when we get the very intense winds coming in to New York City, coincidentally around or exactly at astronomical high tide in New York Harbor. And then the storm system makes its pass directly overhead New York City. On the forecast models, you can see, look at the calm winds in the center of the storm. This is a scenario which I bet a lot of people thought they may never see, where a hurricane comes over the Outer Banks, ejects back just off the New Jersey shore, and then makes landfall near New York City. Here's another look at the NAM from a broader view, and you can see the center of circulation and how strong the winds are really into the system. This is a very impressive southeast wind fetch, 40 knots of southeast winds at the surface, with gusts likely way higher than that. And you look at the 900 millibar winds, 70 plus knots, with the heavy rain and convection. Those winds may have no trouble mixing down to the surface, and that's how you get those bursts of very damaging winds. For instance, on the North Carolina coast, we actually had wind gusts of, it's unconfirmed at this point, I believe, but it was Storm Prediction Center website noted at 113-mile-an-hour gust. So Hurricane Irene with 85-mile-an-hour sustained winds, but 113-mile-an-hour gust winds. That's how you get these winds to mix down, like we mentioned. Another thing to worry about is, as the storm begins to move to the north and northeast, the models have a few things going on here. The pressure actually drops a little bit as it comes off the coast, and that is actually the first sign of what we like to call an extratropical transition, when tropical cyclones move further north up the coast and they begin to transition to an extratropical cyclone, or kind of a hybrid at this point, because it's still a warm core, so it's still technically a tropical cyclone. When this happens, the wind fields of the system can expand, so the tropical storm and hurricane force winds can actually expand outward from the center hundreds of miles, and at that point you can get the gusty winds even farther away from the center of the system. So it's important not to focus too much on the exact track of the storm. Realize that tropical storm and hurricane force wind gusts can extend so far away from the center of the storm that it doesn't even matter. But having the storm take the track up the New Jersey coast and tuck inland in the central New Jersey coast is very, very bad for the New York City area. We're not talking about, and I said this on our Twitter account, we're not talking about catastrophic damage here, but essentially with a Category 1 hurricane, that is the worst case track, because the southeast winds coming into New York Harbor at high tide and the storm surge are not going to make things pretty. Also, the heavy rain that's supposed to move into the area that we're seeing on the models right here, we'll check it out here on the NAM. Here's the heaviest rain right here on the right panel, has a lot to do with upper level jet streak, which is going to enhance the system and actually may preclude much weakening of this system although it may become slightly extratropical, begin that transition, it'll still have a good chance of being a Category 1 hurricane, or maybe a very, very strong tropical storm at that time. Either way, it looks like we're heading towards something a lot of us have never seen in our lifetime, which is a landfalling tropical system on the New Jersey coast, and then moving up into New York Harbor. So one more time to go over, there are still evacuations in place. We went over this yesterday. We posted the New York area zone evacuation maps. If you're in a Zone A area, there is a mandatory evacuation by 5 o'clock p.m. You need to be out of there by 5 o'clock p.m. Long Beach Island, it's getting to crunch time for you guys. You guys are farther south. Cape May especially, mandatory evacuations in all of those areas. I believe Cape May reported that they evacuated 80% of their residents thus far. And Fire Island evacuation also is in place. A state of emergency still in place over New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Maryland and Delaware beaches, extending farther to the south. And the hurricane continues to make its trek up the coast. We will be with you on Facebook and Twitter. We will have multiple video updates throughout the day as the heavier rain bands begin to develop. Stay with us, interact with us, and also, very importantly, send us your pictures, your videos, your storm reports, and all first-hand accounts as we all experience this hurricane together, and by being prepared, we can all stay safe. We'll be in touch with you guys later today.